DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
You pushed the wrong button again.
I don't know. I think we might have pushed the wrong button. Okay, I think we're live now.
Are you sure?
Let me check.
Because you're still doing Godzilla to me.
Oh, okay, great. That's my favorite part of our show. Okay.
Show your talent.
Okay, and action.
Welcome, everybody. It is a wonderful Monday night. Thank you very much for taking some time out of your evening, whether you are streaming us on your computer while you're watching the Twins lose or whether it's something else entirely. Thank you very much for taking time on your Monday evening to be a part of this this joyous fun. Apparently, I've got to bring my A game, so I'm not too. If you have, it's all about who should we please, and we're not talking about our spouses. Because that's just the given.
Yes, that's a good way. Yes, that's a face-saving statement.
Oh, but John came to me with this idea, and I love it. I love the ideas, and we're gonna break down. This is not just wedding talk tonight. This is not just school dance talk. There's a couple different areas of DJing that we're going to be talking and branching about. So even if you're not a wedding person, even if you're not a bar or a school dance person, we're going to have a way for you to at least consider exactly who is the important ones for you to please.
And I think
that's not as simple.
Yeah, there's the thing. I think if a takeaway from this is that it's not as simple as it seems. It should be a no-brainer. But in like every situation that we've looked at, just in our little notes here, there are variables, and it can change so dramatically from one experience to another that I think it's a good area to have a little discussion, a little debate, and to get some feedback from you guys in the chat room, because there are things to think about. And for the younger DJs who are going to watch this, we're having this discussion basically for younger DJs like my son, who are getting into this, because sometimes that they will come into these situations and they're like, what do I do? Whereas maybe our experience can help a little bit, or we'll just confuse you even more. Fine line, and we can do both. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so yeah, we got some chat going on in the chat rooms. We got actually they're coming to us from Facebook and yeah. So all right, well let's jump into, most of us are wedding DJs, Dan.
Yes.
And of course, there's one of the situations, and I haven't had this one recently, because it seems like probably in the last 5 years, I think I've had maybe one parent sign the contract. 10 years ago, let's jump back to that, 10 to 15, 20 years ago, it was very common for parents to be signing the contract, and it was unusual for the bride and groom to be signing the contract. And I ran into that situation time and time again, where I would have a parent, specifically like the father of the bride, because generally they were the ones who signed the contract, and they were like, I'm the one paying you. I want you to do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And yet I have the bride and the groom. It's their day. I have their friends, and they want this kind of to happen. And then I have the parents whose names are on the contract saying a different thing. Yep. When these happen, how do we handle that, to listen to know what to do?
It's tough, especially when they're coming to you, because it's usually not, hey, by the way, I want to hear this, and oh yeah, I'm paying for you. It's usually more of a sternness to it, especially when it comes from dad.
Yes.
Like, listen, I wrote the check. You're going to do this, and so you want to keep them happy. I got into this a little while ago, very similar to what you're saying. Years ago, the checks coming from mom and dad almost all the time, and now it's definitely branching into the couple doing it more. But what I developed a few years ago was, rather than being the client's signature on the contract, I require that it is the bride and the groom's signature, and assuming that we're with that set up, the two spouses. And the main reason is, kind of twofold. One, I used to only require one, and then I had a situation where they broke up, and it was the other person's fault, and they're like, go after them. So anyway, so we have two signatures on there, and to me, when I have a parent who's like, who's overly involved, and not too much, but is definitely there and talking and stuff like that, and making their voice heard at the meetings and stuff, I take a moment to just sit back and say, hey, I appreciate all that you're saying, and I'm going to do everything I can to help you out. But you do got to remember that it's Bobby and Susie's day, and it's going to be everything that I can do about them. And when it all comes down to it, you're welcome to pay anything you want, but their names are the ones that are on the contract. So they're the ones that I'm going to be catering to first and foremost. I've yet to had a parent who kind of goes, says no, like that's not good with me. Any of them that's been in that situation, once I kind of lay those ground rules, it usually takes care of it. Now, at the meeting, there's not alcohol involved. At the wedding, it's a different story.
Yeah, exactly. There is that that's part of it that makes everyone smarter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a great point with the having a conversation, especially if you start to detect, when you're meeting with the bride and groom and they're the only ones there, that's generally a sign that you may not have. You could still have parents who are, we want X, Y, and Z. Again, going back 10 years, the meetings were generally either the sales meeting or even some of the planning meetings had one or both parents are at the meetings. I haven't had that in a long time. So either, the progression and it's just not as big of a thing, or I haven't had the same type of couples and customers. And that could be it, because at that time, the mid 2000s, I was doing the larger hotels and I was doing these $2,000 plus weddings, and we were creating some really neat things at that time. And I haven't done that type of wedding in a number of years. So maybe it's just, my clientele has changed. I couldn't tell you, but that was always a struggle. And I think communication was the key. I did have one where I could see it coming even beforehand. Actually, that was a particular one before, at the sales call, the father of the bride was there, and he was squeezing me on price. And he was squeezing about control, and I want this and I don't want this, and this is what we're going to have at her wedding. And eventually I had, as they continue on, it's like, I don't think I'm the DJ for you. I'm just going to, I'll take my contract, and it sounds like, if it's all about price, and the father apologized and he's like, this is how I work. I'm the guy who's going to try to get everything I can for my nickel. He goes, you're going to be the DJ. You're going to do a fabulous job. And he apologized. And that was the end of him. As far as he was still involved, but he was the nicest guy there, as opposed to playing this hardball. That was one of those situations, though, that if I probably wouldn't have, in essence, pulled that off the table and shown that I was going to walk, he would have probably been riding me the whole way, all the way through. But when I basically was going to say, we're probably not a good fit for this, and I don't play this, I'm not going to play your game. It was a way of handling him, and it worked wonderfully in the long run for me. But that's always been a struggle area.
I've also found that lately, my clients, when I do have a parent that might be, maybe they're not paying, but they're going to be a very involved type of parent, especially the night of, that my clients are kind of giving me heads up. Oh. Like, just, hey, by the way, just so you're aware, mom's going to be this way, or mom's going to come up and she's going to request this, and we really don't want to hear it. So, and by this point, my couples kind of get to know me and know that I kind of have just like an interesting sense of humor that I can just mess with, certain people in the right way, and everybody goes away laughing. And they're like, just have fun with her. Just get her laughing, have some fun with her. She's like, she'll be fine. It won't be an issue, but it's one of those things of like, hey, just be aware, this is my mom, this is my dad, this is how they're going to be. And let's, don't worry too much, but they may approach you. And it's kind of funny just to see like, okay, thank you. But to know that they see it too.
Yeah, for sure. How valuable that little bit of insight is, because then you can address it. It isn't like that elephant in the corner of the room and everybody knows that dad is going to be a little quirky or something, and they've given you permission to deal with it in a positive way.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump to the next one. So we're at the event. This past weekend, you and I were both doing weddings, and we're out there, and we've got the things that the couple wants to do, or the songs they want or don't want, and then we have the guests coming up, and the guests are going to want a different, sometimes dramatically different than what the couple were wanting in their vision of the day. Sometimes it's just a little thing that we can work in, but those times when we have a couple specifically wanting a type. We want nothing newer than the 90s. We want 70s and 80s music, and this is what we want, even though they're a younger couple. Or we want an all-country wedding. MJ does a lot of those. That type of thing, where you have one thing that the couple has really had in their vision, and now we have somebody coming up and saying, hey, we got the wobble, and then can we follow it up by teaching me how to Dougie? And then once we're done with that, then we're going to really go into some cool stuff. Who do you cater to in this situation? Because there are times when the couple's vision and what's going to make that fun event aren't the same thing.
Right. So ideally, anytime I get a couple that really pigeonholes, for lack of better terms, that music that they want, that style that they're wanting, I try and get them to just kind of stop for a second and think about who else is there. Like, it's one thing for me to play a lot of one style. It's another thing for me to play only that one style or two styles. And so anytime they get into that very restrictive sense, I'd simply ask the question, what happens when somebody comes up and asks for something else? Because it's going to happen. I said, when you have that one style, it's going to happen. And a lot of times it's a question that they don't think of. They only think of themselves, they're not trying to be selfish necessarily, but they only think of themselves and only think of the style that they like. And well, if they like it, everybody's going to like it. Nobody would think to ask anybody else. Oh, they might. Okay. So, if they ask for it, sure. Okay. So now let's start talking about if they're going to ask for it, it's possible that they might like it and may want to dance to it. So do you want them out there dancing? Well, yeah. Okay, so then maybe we need to start thinking about not only one style, but now we're branching out a little bit, and maybe we have a heavier concentration of one style.
Sure.
And it starts that conversation, and this is going to be the key that we're going to hear, I'm sure, through all of our points tonight. And you even hit on the beginning, was this conversation idea. You're going to have that conversation, and you got to have it beforehand. The second you get an indication that they're going one style or one area, just have the conversation of what if this. And here becomes the key question of I say we had that conversation, and I've kind of said, well, it's going to go this direction, but I might not. They might come back to you and say it doesn't matter. And I think that's where, when the guest comes up and then they request that song, they request a different style, you don't want to. I'm a big believer, and I said this last week, I don't want to put the blame on the bride and groom. However, in that situation where we're so restricted to what we've got,
right?
Tonight we've got a very special type of layout for you tonight. We've got a very special theme going throughout the night. Bobby and Susie, this is what they want to hear, and we are going to do everything we can to make this the awesome night for their wedding. And that, again, it's not a negative light. And I don't think a couple in that aspect would go and say, no, you got to change your mind.
And that was actually the direction I was kind of wondering if you were going to touch on that, because last week, if you guys watched last week's show where we talked about music requests and such and how to handle that throwing the couple under the bus, you had mentioned it and used that phraseology. And after the show, I was thinking about, it's like, yeah, that really could be perceived that way. But you get this situation where, in this case, there's just really no other way around it than to explain what's gone on. And for those of you some of you have talked about an 80s party, or Reggie did a polka event. It happens where we have a theme. Generally, though, if it's a theme that the couple has expressed that to their guests, and it's a country theme, or it's a this, that, the other thing, and people are dressing appropriately. So it's probably not a shock to them if there is a hard theme like that. But I think the point we get to is that communication, having those conversations in advance, because without that, it's going to be a long night, and you're going to probably look very bad to someone in the room.
Yeah.
Let's change gears a little bit. Let's jump to schools. Schools are a struggle. Both of us come from a teaching background. You active from a few years ago. We've been on both sides of it as DJs and as chaperones to these events, and we've had to answer or have been in communication with principals. Mm-hmm. Principals or the administration. There we go. That's what I was looking for. The administration, when there have been concerns, we'll call it that. Mm-hmm. So we get this balance at this point. We have our students, the things that the students want to hear and what they want to do, and then we have let's just start with the chaperones, the people who are there, and they're doing their they're helping and watching. Maybe teachers, maybe not, maybe just some parents or what have you, or community. There's some church types where they'll send their youth pastor over to whatever. So we have two different groups of people who are at that school dance. And sometimes I'm getting conflicting messages, of course, between these two. What has your experience been when you have had that, and you've had like some maybe ultra-conservative chaperones there? How have you dealt with that when it came to music selection, like the kids would like to hear?
When it comes to chaperones, it's kind of a different animal. Most of my experience, very rarely do we have community members that come in and do chaperoning at school dances. It really boils down to, 90% of them are teachers or staff or administration, some way from the district that's stepping in to take care of it. Occasionally we get PTO members that step in. I haven't really had chaperones coming up to me kind of giving me conflicting messages. The only thing I get sometimes from them is, hey, by the way, can you keep an eye out for like this area? We're having like a couple of issues over there. And sometimes you can see stuff that we can't because you're a little higher, or,
right.
Whatever happens to be the case. So that's more what I run into than we want this type and the students want this type, not from the chaperones. All right. And we'll talk administration, I'm sure, in a moment here, but yeah. So what you said, chaperones, like, are they coming up and requesting songs, or like what are the messages you're getting?
I've had situations where I've had chaperones, especially with younger teachers these days, where we're talking 23 to 25-year-old teachers who grew up hearing some of these songs, or I've had chaperones requesting Moni Moni. I've had them requesting Baby Got Back. I've had them requesting Blurred Lines, because these are, great songs that they hear they grew, heard them in college, and it was a great party time. And, this would be great for the kids on the dance floor because these are great tunes. And it becomes the situation from that side of it, sometimes that the chaperones, and here I'm pleasing a chaperone, but I know I'm going to ultimately have a problem with administration, which is, one I didn't even have on the list. Then I've got the other side of it when I have chaperones who are more conservative, and then I have kids who are coming up and they're requesting, everything that we have for schools is a clean edit from somewhere, whether it's, the old prime cuts or it's promo only, it's a clean edit. So we can play that. But there are times where the kids are requesting something that it isn't quite clean enough, or for some people in the room, or it might be something that there's just enough suggestiveness to the song that there's no way, Flow Ride is Whistle. Obviously they're singing about a certain thing, and generally it's whistling for their dog that was out hunting and they wanted to come back. Here, Fido. That's what they're singing about.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So you've got the song there.
That's how I hear it.
And the kids are wanting to hear it because they love dogs. Golden Retrievers are favorite everywhere, and yet you've got some administration or chaperones who are like, dude, you know what they're singing about there? It's not Golden Retrievers. That is Cocker Spaniels. and we don't like Cocker Spaniels in our school. We only like Golden Retrievers. So you've got this issue with dogs because of the song, and the kids are like, we love it. And it becomes a struggle because some of these conversations we can have, but generally with schools, it's not. We don't talk to them at that level. And if we offend the kids or we don't do what the kids and play enough of what they want, then the kids are like, yeah, we don't like that DJ. He sucks.
So the thing that often runs into, so I have visually seen some PTO members, usually that's where it comes into play, where they're kind of like, is this a line that needs to be crossed? And I'll be honest, a lot of times when it comes to school dances, I err a little bit more on the side of caution, depending upon the school. I've got one school that pretty much is just like, listen, as long as there's a radio edit, we don't care. The principals are standing right beside the speaker, like they're hearing everything that's coming out,
right?
If they want to. So with those schools, I'm not as guarded, I guess. But with the other ones, I try and walk that line because depending upon who's there, and I look at it more from a staff and administration side of worrying about them being the one that's going to be ultra conservative, because they're the ones who, if somebody makes a complaint, they're the ones who are going to hear it and it's going to come back and it's going to be a problem.
For sure.
And so I'm going to throw in, I don't know, you said administration wasn't on the list. I thought for sure some reason it was.
No, it was, but it was the chaperones administration. So let's just tie the administration into this as we're continuing, because that was.
So that becomes the one that I think is the most difficult. Chaperones is one thing, but staff or students versus administration is such a difficult line at majority of your schools. Like I said, the one school I'm blessed with, because like I said, the administration is just like, listen, as long as it's a radio edit, it's fine. In fact, I heard from last year, I didn't do the prom. I had a different one lined up, and I ended up hearing from one of the staff or one of the teachers that was there, that the principal came up and said, is that really the radio edit? And the student or the teacher's like, yeah, you're just hearing all the students singing the regular lyrics. And then that was fine. And like, that was where it ended with that administration.
Right.
But I have a school district that I last year did, with the exception of their homecoming dance, did every dance music type of function they had from junior high to high school. It was like every time I turned around. In fact, I had a friend of mine who like works in the business office. She goes, I keep writing you checks. Like, yes, you do. And it was one of those things. It was great.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm going back to there this year. And it was because I crossed the line and created a problem. And when administration put their foot down, I followed administration. And now I have a feeling the schools don't want me back, and the administration is guarded because they had to put their foot down in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And what it came down to was I was playing radio edits. I was playing clean versions, but the kids were singing it and shouting it at the top of their lungs. And it created a problem because kids from this little town should not be saying those words in a public setting.
Sure.
Whether you agree with that or not, that was a stance that they had. And that was what the principal came back and said, listen, this is the way it's going to be. And so it came to prom, and they actually went way conservative and said, even if it's in the original version has a swear word, even if you had the radio edit that has none of it in it, it doesn't matter. If it's in the original, you can't play it.
Ooh, that would be super, super tight.
Oh, it was. And so I actually convinced them. I said, listen, we can't go that much. I said, you're I can't even play Kids Bops because technically the original has the words
everything.
in it. I said, I can't play Uptown Funk because it has this word in it. And they go, oh. I said, so listen, there's two words that you're mainly concerned about. I said, let me take all the songs that have those two words in it, F and N.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And take them out. And I said, and then that leaves me at least a little bit more that I can play.
Right. And
they said, okay. I didn't realize how many songs had, just one word. Like it wasn't repeated a bunch of times. Like I was in my head, I'm thinking, okay, it's going to take out this, it's going to take out that. Okay. I'll get through the night.
Right.
And then it was like, man, one little word dropped in the middle of a verse in the second one through or whatever. And I'm just like, you kidding me? And of course they gave me this new proclamation from the school district with like 2 weeks to go. So it's not like I could even really go down and make my own edits of all this stuff.
Oh no.
The night never ended. It went on, and it was so long. And after court, it cleared. It did, because they were coming up. They were asking for this. They were asking for that. They were asking for this artist. And I'm like, I can't.
Can't do it.
I can't. My hands are tied. And the thing was, I had no problems throwing administration under the bus, because it was completely their role.
Yeah.
And it was funny, because I even had people that were on the student staff whose like significant other was coming up to me and saying, hey, and I'm like, your girlfriend is on the staff. She knows this rule.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you even trying? I said, I'm sorry. And like I said, I haven't received a single phone call from them for this year. And it's almost like I don't want the headache anyway.
Oh, for sure.
That was a long story. I apologize. But
no, that was good. I had a variation of that, and I was going to share, because I have also lost schools because of very similar situations. So it does happen, and sometimes you just have to. Sucks to be us, and you move on, and hopefully that if you've been in a business long enough, there's that coming and going of schools, and one goes and then another one comes in. So. Let's jump to our last area that we want to talk about, getting into the kind of the bar and club area. That brings, after what we did with the school, let's kind of, we've got 3 different groups that I wanted to talk about. Kind of our management of the bar. Then we have our staff of the bar, which sometimes might have some overlap between those two, many times doesn't. And then we have the people who are coming in, the customers of the bar. In this scenario, you'll have customers who come in and they want to hear their faves. You've got staff who want to hear some of their favorite songs and things that will have meaning to them, what have you. And then you have management that may want to hear their favorite types of music, or they may be wanting you to program a specific for a specific thing. When you have this situation, the management obviously wants to make money. We take these things into account, and where does this leave us that we're going to have the most success in performing for this in this situation?
This is another one that becomes very tough. So I have a couple bars that I worked at, bars with dance floors. There's 2 in particular that are kind of complete opposite sides of the coin. The first one was when I first ever really started DJing in a bar / dance area, we'll call it. And they had a music service, not like a promo only or something like that, but it was one where like they would critique, like I would send them playlists. I would record everything I played in a night, and I would send this out in a file to them. And they would write back and they would say, great job on this, horrible job on this. You shouldn't do that. What the heck were you thinking? Like, those kind of things. And they would also record a tape, and they would critique my mixing and everything else. And it was kind of cool for the most part. But I was in Northeast Tennessee. This company was based out of Houston, Texas. And in their viewpoint, I should have been playing an EDM track like for majority of the night. There was no EDM stations in the area. There were top 40 stations. There was a hip hop station, but the idea was I should be going this other route. So to make the owners happy, there was 2 different DJs, if you will, DJ that played to the crowd to keep them dancing and keep them going, because the more people that we had in there, the more people that were drinking,
sure,
the more people that were hitting the bar. And didn't have, because of the way the place was set up, you could really kind of only fit so many people on the dance floor to begin with. So it really forced people out into the outsides. And this was a place that was a restaurant during the day. So their servers became servers of just alcohol at night, because they would go around to the outsides and then deliver it to these people. So they didn't have to fight to get to the bar. You didn't have to bring them to the bar.
Right.
You didn't have to force them. You could deliver it right where they're at. And so it really just became a method of catering to them without crossing the line because there was a certain stereotypical people that they wanted to keep out. They didn't want to keep, they wanted to keep some, there was a club in town that typically had issues. And so I was pretty much restricted from heavy urban.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and
that's your philosophy.
Mhm.
That, okay. We'll abide by it. We're going to get everybody else in here as much as we can and go that route. And so that was the fine line that I walked. Management was happy because they were just like, listen, the bar sales are there. We're not having issues. And you're doing what we need to do because the owners want us to have this service. And then the guests were happy because I was catering to them.
Mm-hmm.
Go 5-6 years later, I'm now back in Pennsylvania and I'm playing at this college bar. And the owner, one of the first nights, comes up to me and he goes, listen, your job is to keep people dancing all night. He's like, I want people on the floor. Make them thirsty. They'll go to the bar. Like his philosophy was not rotate the dance floor or anything like that. It was just have fun with them all night long. Again, you know, we don't want you to go too heavy in one area or another, but you know, just have fun with the crowd and make them have a good time. And they will go to the bar when they're thirsty. It was just like, you want the guests to be happy. All right, I can do that. And I love that type of philosophy. And that was the owner. So this was not like management, you know, stepping in or the owner kind of saying, we want the bar sales. No, it was like, we want people in here,
Mm-hmm.
make people come in this place. And I think sometimes that's a lot, that is almost a hidden line that you have to walk.
Yep.
Because the owners want the bar sales and I get that, but you've got to appease the guests enough that they're going to want to be on the floor in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough options. I don't care what town you're in. There's enough options that somebody can find some place to go if they're not happy with what they're hearing.
Certainly.
So,
yeah, and I think when you have an owner or a manager that you can have that conversation with at that level, and they understand that the ultimate success of the venue or the business is making those sales, and what does it take to do that? I can't tell you the number of times over the years I've worked with a manager or owner that has done, as you were talking about, where we're programming away from a crowd. And it hasn't been just urban music. I had one bar that wanted us to program away from heavy metal because in that community, there were some heavy metal, some biker heavy metal type people that they drank well, but they drink and they would fight, and they busted that bar up numerous times. So we programmed away from that. We've had, there's another place I played where we were banned from playing country music because country music brought in this type of crowd who came in there and then they caused trouble. Actually, that was one of them. The other was we had to get away from country music because they came in and they would drink water.
mm-hmm.
It was another, that was the latter years of the country music. So in that case, yes, I was having to please the owner because they were the ones writing out the check. Ultimately, their crowd suffered. They didn't have enough turnout, and the people weren't happy with being stuck where I was, or the way it was being stuck. Even though I did a great job and the music, it was a fun mix. If you liked that type of music, it didn't bring enough to keep and continue on. And I think in most cases, all of those bar owners or people are long gone. But then we get to the customer side of it. We get requests from people, and sometimes we want our dance floor to be popular. We want people to be having fun, and we get requests that are just the turd in a pool type of thing that just don't fit our vision of what would be successful. You know, oh, you got to play this latest one from whatever, and it's like, no, that song sucks. I don't want to play it. Keeping the customers happy. I can keep some of them happy, maybe not all of them. It's always, some of you in the chat room, I've seen a few of you say, that's why I don't do bars anymore. Yep, I get that.
Yeah. And, you know, with those requests, I mean, when they're coming up and asking for the requests, I think, you know, that's another different animal that you have. The one place I absolutely hated playing, when they forgot to put the security up by where I was at, because they'd come up and they request something and it's like, okay, I'll get it on as soon as I can. You know, let me, or at that time it was kind of nice because I wasn't fully digital. So if it wasn't on a CD that I had, I couldn't play it. It was like legit straight up the way it was. And so I kind of had that as an excuse for the longest time. Like, I don't have it with me. Sorry, can't do that.
Yeah.
Then when I went digital, it was like, okay, that's not in my bar hard drive, or that's not my club hard drive. And I could get away with those kind of things. But we know, I mean, bars are getting alcohol. So sometimes these people are becoming intoxicated and they become in your face. And when you don't have staff that's nearby, however, I will say this is one of the things we kind of hit on staff, but we didn't really talk about it. I think it's important to have some fun with staff, especially when you've got some good staff that will like kind of have some fun. And hey, can you play so-and-so? When you make good friends with them, you'll learn what they like. And if you can throw in a little snippet in the middle of the night, suddenly they're having a little bit of fun. They're going to smile on their face. They're kind of dancing around. Now the people around them are having more fun as well. Like, it kind of raises that level of energy. You don't have to throw a lot of it in. And if it's a weird request, to get it out before anybody comes in.
Yep.
It's like, hey, I'm setting up. I'm just going to throw this on before we even open the doors. And it's like, and the staff is like, you know what? I can live with that because I'm here and I got to hear my song and that's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping staff happy is a good thing because it just makes your experience while you're there better.
And I found over the years, there's been, generally this staff person have a song or a group. And even during the heat of the dance, there have been times, because one manager specifically, he would want that floor rotated. That was what he wanted. That was a great time to send out the bar manager. His name was Mark Parker. And it's like this song, hey, everybody, I want you to just cheer. Mark's been mixing the drinks for you guys tonight. No, this song's going out to Mark. You guys, if you know Mark, this is his tune. And you play the song. And then people are like up there. And the song wasn't a dance song. There's no question about it. But they knew it was for him. They appreciate him because he's been pouring good drinks for them all night long. And I didn't really find out about this until probably about 2 months after I was kind of doing it on a regular basis. He's like, do you know when you do that, my tips go through the roof? It's like, really? And he goes, dude, I went and bought that car right over there. And I don't remember, at the time it was like a sports car, but it was an older, I literally bought that car from the tips just from you saying that every night that I did it. It's like, dude.
Where's my tips?
Yeah, exactly. It's like all he did is send up a drink for me every once in a while. That wasn't that great of a deal. Now that I'm looking back at it, but anyway, so it definitely has it can be done, but yeah, you just can't be like, oh yes, I want to hear the whole B side of that. No, I can't. We've got to have our plan and our focus of what's going to be in the best interest of our business as a DJ business and their business as the venue.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, we hit 40 minutes. We need to wrap.
Oh, wow. It goes quick every time. I'm telling you.
It does. It really does. So thank you guys for being with us. Let us know. We've been kind of doing these topical things on Monday nights. Let us know your thoughts on it, or if there's a topic you'd like us to hit and discuss or dig into, because not only do we talk about it, but if you're with us live, that chat room is talking about it and sharing some pretty cool stories. Yeah. There's things they're talking about there that we can't be sharing on the air in here. But again, if there's something out there, you're like, hey, how would you handle? Those are usually the best ones for us to do, because you set up these hypotheticals, because you'll find out that we have a way of looking at it, and then people in the chat room have another way to look at it, and sharing their experiences helps make things a lot easier down the road. Convention, the DJNTV event coming up February. Don't be afraid to go check that out right now, because the prices on the tickets, this is the cheapest they're going to be right now. Airfare is cheap to get down to Vegas in February. The tickets, we just talked about it with Jonathan in the last show. $1,000 can get you airfare, hotel, food, and everything, show pass, and then you can still have a couple of bucks to go and enjoy a little in Vegas. So go check it out. DJNTV.com/tickets will get you the tickets. Use promo code DJNTV Show 2020. DJNTV Show 2020, and that's in the description below. You can see the links and everything, but that will get you there. And we got a great lineup scheduled for next year. So come on out and hang out with us in February. I think I'm done, Dan.
What was that?
I think I'm done.
You're done.
I think I am.
So on that note, as we said in the beginning of the show, thank you very much for taking some time out of your Monday evening to join us. And again, whether it's streaming while you've been doing other things or whether you just tuned in and focused solely on us, we thank you very much for doing so. Some great shows yet coming up this week. Make sure you're checking all the lineouts up. I'm telling you, when I was looking at seeing what was some of the shows this week, I got a little more excited. All right. Not to say the ones previous were bad, but just a little more excited about this week. So definitely make sure you're tuning in. You will not be disappointed. I guarantee you that. And we will be back here next Monday. Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.